And we're back. This is Hook and Ladder. This is, what are we, week 10 now?
9 or 10, yeah.
9 or 10, yeah. I think we're going to review week 9, and we're going to be getting into week 10 here in just a moment. But Georgia remains undefeated, beating Florida 34-7. Some questionable calls with Dan Mullen in this game. And, Georgia's going to continue to ride the Stetson Bennett train, looks like, for at least another week. I don't think that's going to be something that they need to be doing long term, especially if they expect to win a national title. Anything you want to comment about this game?
We watched this game on TV. Kind of started off how I thought it was going to start off. Florida came out, give them all they have. Georgia's offense was not looking good at all. Georgia's defense was holding them. Anthony Richardson, athletically, he's a big dude, can run the football. I don't think he's a very good thrower yet, but that was his first start, and they played well. That last 2 minutes or so in the first half, Georgia gets a turnover down there inside the red zone, capitalizes on a touchdown run by James Cook. Florida gets the ball back. Anthony Richardson throws a pick. It really wasn't that bad of a throw. The guy was open. Georgia's defensive lineman tipped it up. Linebacker made the interception. One play. Georgia goes deep for the touchdown to Kearis Jackson, and it's 17-0. Then here's where the second call by Dan Mullen. The first one was a 4th and 13 in the first quarter, or early in the second quarter, which I thought was weird, going for it on 4th and 13. But you're down 17-0. There's like a minute and a half left to go in the half. Take it to halftime, lick your wounds, regroup, come out second half, you're going to get the ball back second half. He decides to try to drive down the field, and Richardson throws a pick six, and that basically ends the first half, and bam, they're down 24-0. Georgia's defense, second half, just completely dominated. There was a garbage time touchdown. Georgia had this backup defensive lineman in the game, and they scored.
It was 2:50 left in the game.
Yeah, and then after the touchdown, Georgia went and scored on a long touchdown run themselves. But that defense is dominant. The offense did not look good until the second half. Run game didn't get going until late in the second half. Bennett looked horrible. Easily his worst game of the season. And Georgia won by 27 points. Yes. So,
And Florida's not a bad team.
No, Florida's not a bad team. They got athletes all over the field. I just don't think they're a cohesive unit.
No.
Brenton Cox is a freak athlete, and he was basically invisible all game. But I agree with what you said. I don't think Stetson Bennett is going to win Georgia national championship. But I'm not there at practice. So.
If they can hang with Ohio State.
Or Alabama. Those are and Oklahoma. Those are three teams you're maybe going to face in the playoffs. Definitely face Alabama in the SEC championship game. Those are three teams that can put up a boatload of points.
You say definitely, but we can other things to discuss.
Yes, that's true.
There's a lot of teams that are still alive there. Moving right along, Cincinnati defeated Tulane 31-12, doing what Cincinnati has to do, win in dominant fashion. They continue to do that week in and week out. Moving right along.
14-12 at halftime. I think they needed to score. They stepped on the gas in the second half, but first half they were looking pretty rough there.
Yeah. Well, they might have went out. I mean, it was and played in New Orleans against Tulane. So,
but SMU lost yesterday, so that might hurt Cincinnati's strength of schedule. I feel like I'm dogging out Cincinnati every week. I'm not. I like Cincinnati. Undefeated last year, conference champions. They go to the New Year's Six Bowl against Georgia and lose in a very, very close game. Yeah. In order for them to get in the playoffs, I feel they need to do that and then eventually beat one of those teams in a bowl game to kind of get next year. I still don't know whether they.
There's a lot of teams left, and November is going to decide who's going to do what.
Yeah. I'm still skeptical they get in, but I'm not hating on Cincinnati.
Yeah. No. Moving right along, Oklahoma takes care of business against Texas Tech, 52-21. Caleb Williams, 5 TDs,
400-something yards. Dude's a beast. One of those guys that can throw the ball, that he can run the football. He makes Oklahoma such a different team. And I don't think anyone's knocking them off. I mean, they played good, which was kind of what we were talking about the last few weeks. They have been playing well, and they've been getting by. Now that Caleb Williams is at the helm, they're kicking ass.
I mean, they're just dominating games now. Ohio State knocked off Penn State 33-24. I think I passed out during this game.
I wasn't watching this game. It was on, but we were watching a different one last night. I really like what Kirk Herbstreit said when they were doing the picks on game day. He's like, for ABC, this is going to be a really close game and everybody should tune in and watch till the end. I thought that was funny because everybody thought Penn State was just going to get blown out of the building. And I was really surprised that they came to play.
Yes.
But Ohio State's offense, Travion Henderson, I think is his name, freshman running back. Dude's dominant. If he goes, the offense of Ohio State goes, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, moving right along. Oh, go ahead.
Hold on, wait. I want one more thing I want to add. Last week, if you guys were watching, I was mentioning how Ohio State's wide receivers are always running wide open. I think Henderson's the star of the show, but C.J. Stroud just hit these dudes running wide open. That happened again yesterday, and I thought about it. I wanted to mention it. Guys like Olavi and that other dude, always wide open. I mean, they're great wide receivers. That's why, but it seems like it's so easy for them.
Yeah. Well, two teams that might give them a test later on in the season: Michigan State. Michigan State in a kind of a thriller.
Yeah, this was the game of the week. This was a fun game to watch. One of my favorite games of the year so far. Yeah. Looked early like Michigan was going to take it to them, and Michigan State kept hanging around, kept chipping away little by little, and the next thing you know, they're right there tied. They had to score 2 touchdowns and then get the 2-point conversions to tie it up at 30, and then they just kind of clamped down defensively a good bit. McNamara looked really good beginning of the game, first half, threw a couple of touchdowns, including a 90-plus yarder. They looked really good. I thought Michigan, recovered a fumble in the end zone for a touchdown. I never thought Michigan State was going to come back. No. This was a hell of a game.
It was.
Walker he's a Heisman candidate.
I think he might be the guy right now.
He should after what happened to Matt Corral.
Yeah, 5 TDs for Kenneth Walker yesterday. That's pretty impressive there.
$197.
Big game. He showed up, broke a big one there at the end.
The national stage.
Yeah. That's big time.
He was playing for Wake Forest last year.
Yeah.
Or maybe he wasn't playing. That's why he's at Michigan State now. I don't know. But he was on Wake Forest teams last year.
Which is still undefeated. Yeah. Moving right along. Oregon knocked off Colorado 52-29. I didn't watch any of this one. Don't really need the reason why to watch it.
Pac-12 and the Big Ten are starting to shake out. They're starting to kind of, I think the Pac-12 a little bit more, it's shaping up a little bit more clearer than the Big Ten is right now. But Oregon's obviously the team to beat in the North. Utah, they won yesterday. They're the team to beat in the South.
Iowa, go ahead.
Well, I was saying maybe this is the year Pac-12 gets a team in the playoffs. It's been a while.
Yeah, who knows? Iowa, that's what 2 in a row lost to Wisconsin. Thank you for showing up, Wisconsin. 27-7.
Wisconsin was favored in this game. And what I've watched of them this year, they got a pretty good defense, but they're just not good offensively. Yeah. Iowa was the number 2 team in the country just a few weeks ago, and they've dropped 2 in a row, and they're looking like hot garbage. But, that side of the Big Ten, I guess, is shaping up. Iowa's out. Yeah,
they're out of the dance. The streak ends. Auburn, the 18th team of the country, won. So that little streak, I think every weekend, all season long, the number 18th team of the country has lost a game. But that streak has come to an end. Auburn knocked off Ole Miss 31-20. Matt Carroll, I thought he tore his Achilles tendon for a minute there. And miraculously, he came back in the game like maybe 10 minutes
Somebody
later.
Texted me during this game, because I was watching it, but I was drinking pretty heavily. Somebody texted me and said, watching the broadcast, it looked like one of the Ole Miss coaches said to Kiffin, it's an Achilles. Like you could read his lips. I didn't see that happen. I saw the injury. It looked bad. And then he comes back out. They have so many injuries on offense. So I don't really think that they're running on all cylinders right now with all those guys out. Yeah. But, man, Auburn's kicking ass lately, huh? Bo Nix is playing like everybody hoped Bo Nix would play like. Running around. Tank Bigsby from right here in LaGrange went over 100 and a TD. What was that, 140 on 21 carries. He looked really good.
He did.
Demetrius Robertson, the wide receiver, looked good. The defense looked good. Auburn's got a lot to play for.
They're still alive.
They got to play Texas A&M next week. I think at Texas A&M that'd be a tough game.
Tough task.
Auburn's still alive in the West.
Yes, they are. Notre Dame knocks off North Carolina 44-34. Sam Howell 24-31, 341 with a touchdown. Notre Dame continues to win. They continue to do what they need to do.
I have no idea how they're doing it. Yeah. I picked North Carolina to win this game. Notre Dame's got some kind of like that, what is that, touchdown Jesus magic going on for them right there.
Lucky
right
the
now.
Irish.
That touchdown run Kerryon Williams had, where he's bottled up in the backfield and kind of like pinballs around off dudes' backs, and then next thing you know, it's like a 90-something yard touchdown run. It's like, geez. That only happens if Touchdown Jesus has got some of that Jesus mojo working for him. So, hey, they're number 11. They keep winning. Good for them. 7-1.
Moving on. Michigan State knocked off Kentucky. I guess after
Mississippi
that, State. Mississippi State knocked over Kentucky.
Michigan State would beat Kentucky.
Yes, they would. Yes, they would. 31-17. Mike Leach's team is getting it done. Maybe they're starting to believe in Mike Leach now.
Kentucky's lost 2 in a row. Losing to Georgia and basically knocking them out of the race, which actually didn't, but demoralized them, and now it's official.
Yeah.
Georgia has clinched the SEC East with Kentucky's loss.
In October.
Yep, and it's just, man, I never thought Kentucky would lose to Mississippi State.
No. Well, Georgia seems to be sucking the soul out of teams as they defeat.
Yeah, I think they beat Arkansas, and then Arkansas went on to lose like the next 2 or 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Moving right along, Wake Forest remains undefeated 8-0 in the ACC, knocking off Duke 45-7.
And no one's giving them any respect.
Nobody is giving them any respect.
Each week we do this show, and each week I've forgotten Wake Forest even plays football. They're sitting at number 13.
But they're playing well.
They're playing well. Sitting at number 13. They're clearly in the driver's seat. I don't really know how the ACC like conferences shake out. It's like the Coastal versus maybe Atlantic, maybe, I don't know. But they're in the lead of one. I saw the standings. They're in the lead, and then Pitt, I think, had a 2-game lead. Now I think they got a 1-game lead after the letdown yesterday. But
yes, moving right along. Oklahoma State knocked off Kansas 55-3. Oklahoma State does what Oklahoma State needed to do.
Yep. They looked really good yesterday on both sides of the football. Kansas only had a little bit of that magic working in the first half against Oklahoma. Losing the game like they did to Oklahoma, I think that maybe that carried over to yesterday. But Oklahoma State looks good. They got, just like the Big Ten, the meat of the schedule for the Big 12 is coming up in November, so we'll see what happens.
That's right. Baylor knocked off Texas 31-24. They remained 7-1, 16th in the country. They still alive. They got things to play for.
I like the way the Big 12 does it with the round robin style of play. You got to play everybody once during the season, and then there's obviously going to be a rematch in the Big 12 championship game. Dave Aranda's got him playing pretty good. Quarterback's looking pretty good. This was a guy that we watched a couple years ago come in as a backup role against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl when the starter went out with a concussion. So they're looking pretty good. Again, another team, Baylor and Oklahoma State, both got to play Oklahoma in November. So we'll see how that shakes out. But they're playing well.
Everything's still
in
on
Texas.
the table.
Texas has got athletes. Watching the highlights today, and the guy calling the highlights, whatever his name was, I don't know, Galloway, I think it was Joey Galloway, maybe the other guy. He was mentioning what we witnessed watching them play Oklahoma. The guys on defense just don't want to hit. They're trying to wrap up like an arm tackle around the shoulders. They don't want to really just hit guys. And that was showing up yesterday watching dudes for Baylor make runs. Texas just didn't want to be physical.
And you got to be physical to win big games. Moving right along, Pitt was knocked off by Miami. I don't understand. You got a big win against Clemson. You're in the driver's seat, and you just lay an egg against Miami. They come to your house and take it from you.
They're 3-1 in the ACC. They're still leading that division, but I mean, maybe that was a letdown after the win against Clemson. But there's they let Miami score 21 points in the first quarter. Well, I didn't watch this game, but I kept seeing it on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. I kept thinking, when's Pittsburgh gonna turn it on? When's Kenny Pickett gonna stop throwing TD passes? And he did. He played well. But man, they just couldn't stop Miami.
They were looking past Miami. They had that big victory. They were starting to believe their own hype.
Look at the quarter breakdown. 21 points in the first quarter for Miami, 10 in the second, 7 in the third. Basically, after halftime, Pittsburgh kind of figured it out, but they had given up way too many damn points in the first half. 31 in the first half.
Yeah, that's thinking the game's over before it even starts. That'll get you. It's good to see Manny Diaz get a win there. Moving right along, of course, Houston knocked off the undefeated SMU Mustangs 44-37. And that's going to affect Cincinnati later on in the season if they continue to play well. Of course, I didn't watch this game. I'm assuming you didn't either.
No, but I know that we talked about it before. The FPI win percentage for Cincinnati, every remaining game was in the 90s except for this one coming up against SMU was like 84. And they needed SMU to be undefeated, in my opinion. Still, they'll probably get knocked there with 19. They'll probably, losing to Houston. Although Houston's 7-1, 5-0 in the American. They're not a bad team, I guess. No. I haven't really watched Houston, but I mean, something's going to happen. Right. Cincinnati's going to start winning the rest of the games by a lot.
Yes.
And again, I'm not hating on Cincinnati. I like them.
It just seems like
have that feeling. There's two teams that are about to jump them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Maybe three.
Yeah, there's a lot of undefeated teams still out there. They're about to play each other, and I think that's going to help. Or one-loss teams. Fresno State knocked off the undefeated San Diego State Aztecs 30-20. Again,
Fresno State's fun to watch.
They are fun.
I like them.
Yeah.
I like San Diego State as well. I only watched very, very little of this game.
It's Mountain West.
I was having some chili late at night watching the game, and I decided it was good. Yeah. I decided to go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably smart. Iowa State got knocked off by West Virginia 38-31. I didn't know that. Okay.
Iowa State's done. They're out.
They're out of the
I think they still play Oklahoma, but they're unranked, and they have been a huge disappointment this year.
Yeah. And BYU knocked off Virginia 66-49 to wrap up your top 25.
That was a game I did not watch, but I wish I had because seeing the highlights today, it looked like the most fun game of the year.
Yeah.
And the running back for BYU ran for 16,000 trillion yards and 58 touchdowns, apparently. Yeah. Had a huge game. BYU is another team that I like watching. I really like it when they're on Friday nights, like 9:30 at night. You get to watch them. But, they dropped a couple of head scratchers, which I thought they were the better team in both of those losses. But they're 4-1 in the conference and 7-2 overall. I mean, they're kind of out of it, really, in terms of like a playoff picture. But, they're still a fun team. They're going to go a good bowl game.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about next week's schedule. I don't think, as of right now, it hasn't been determined. The Missouri, Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M. I'm gonna guess right here. The Auburn A&M game is gonna be the 3:30. They're not putting the rivalry of LSU and Alabama at freaking noon. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the night game. The Georgia Missouri is going to be noon. So Georgia's last two home games of the year are going to be noon kicks, and that sucks. But I mean, seriously, they're playing Missouri. Missouri's starting QB just went out with an injury, so they're going to be playing a freshman against Georgia. That's going to go real well. Yeah. So I don't really think ESPN or CBS wants a game that's probably going to be a blowout snooze fest in any of their prime slots. So I'm guessing the big marquee matchup there is Auburn at A&M, 3:30. LSU at Alabama, that huge rivalry. Even though LSU is not the LSU, of yesteryear, I guess you could say. Very, very down, disappointing year for LSU. They still got tons of athletes. Half of them aren't even going to play. Right. But that's still a huge rivalry. If you're an Alabama fan, you still look at LSU as a huge rivalry, despite the shitty year they're having. That game is going to be the night game. Kind of like Georgia looked at Florida. Big game. Yes. Anything's possible in a rivalry game. Moving right along, Army Air Force is a 11:30 start next Saturday. Oh, and I forgot Utah, Stanford, team that you hate.
Friday. That'd be a fun game to watch. Friday at 10:30. I'll probably watch that game. Can't stand Stanford, my most hated team, against Utah, who is, I believe, undefeated in the Pac-12, and they're leading the Pac-12 South. Yeah. So that'd be a fun game. Knock off Stanford, because Stanford's the team that beat Oregon.
That's right. Let's see. Ohio State against Nebraska will be a noon kick. That'll be in Lincoln.
Ohio State up huge.
Maybe Ole Miss will get right against Liberty.
A former coach, Hugh Freeze, led Liberty.
That's an interesting game. Wake Forest will take on North Carolina. This could be a surprise game.
Yep, it wouldn't shock me if North Carolina won the game. It also wouldn't shock me if North Carolina got blown out of the building. Yeah. That's just who North Carolina is right now.
Pittsburgh takes on Duke at high noon. SMU will go against Memphis at noon. You can get a ticket for $8. Liberty Bowl. Didn't you go to the Liberty Bowl one time?
I've never been to that one. That one's in Memphis, if I'm not mistaken. I've never been to Memphis. I heard it's nice.
Yeah. Rivalry game. Kansas State against Kansas, noon. That probably looks more like a basketball game to me.
Yeah.
But, whatever. Illinois at Minnesota. That's a noon kick. Tech against Miami, 12:30 on ESPN for $11. Let's see, BYU, Idaho State had to be 3. BYU is at 25 right now. They'll probably move up whenever they announce the rankings. Let's see what else we got here on the schedule. Cincinnati against Tulsa, 3:30. $83.
Cincinnati's got to win big.
They got to win big indeed.
Golden Hurricanes aren't that bad.
Michigan State against Purdue, 3:30 game. I'd like to see Michigan State do well here.
Purdue can ruin people's seasons, though. They've done it before. So Michigan State coming off a huge high from yesterday, beating their main rival, Michigan. You gotta just refocus and regroup and get ready to go.
Yeah. Notre Dame against Navy at 3:30 on NBC. You can get a ticket for $48 for that game. Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Maybe Oklahoma State continues to.
West Virginia ruined Iowa State's season yesterday. Maybe they're going to look to do it against Oklahoma State next week. So Oklahoma State's got to be ready. Same thing with that Baylor TCU game.
Penn State against Maryland. Maryland's liable to beat them. As, for whatever reason, when the top-ranked team knocks off a lesser team, all of a sudden they lose 2 in a row. Don't let them beat you twice. Rutgers, Wisconsin.
Look at that right there, though, above it. There. Rhode Island versus UMass. Rhode Island at UMass. I went to URI. All right, I'm an alumni. That's my alma mater. But apparently, and I didn't know, I don't follow you, or I could give a rat's ass. But apparently, they're really good. Whatever conference they're in, they're like leading it by a long, like a wide margin. Apparently, they're pretty good. So go Rhodey.
Mississippi State takes on Arkansas at 4. You can get a ticket for $30. NC State, Florida State, 4 o'clock as well. You got Coastal Carolina at Georgia Southern. So if you're in Statesboro, it might not be a bad game to check out. Iowa against Northwestern. Iowa's still number 9 as of right now. I'm sure that's going to change here shortly. Tennessee, Kentucky.
That's a game I'm going to be watching closely because.
Actually, no, we're not going to be watching closely.
Yeah, that's true. We won't be watching that game, but I'll check the highlights the next morning to see how that one went because I'm a Georgia fan. We got to play Tennessee the week after, so I'd like to see how that goes.
That's right. Boise State takes on Fresno State. I'm sure that's going to be a good game. Indiana, Michigan. Michigan is going to try to get right against Indiana. That'd be 7:30. Oregon, Washington. That's a 7:30 start as well. Texas takes on Iowa State, which will probably be unranked here in the next hour or so.
And that's another one of those games like North Carolina. Texas could win, or Texas could get blown out of the building. It wouldn't shock me either way. Both of those teams seem like they just don't try to win very often.
Yeah. I'm curious about this game, Florida and South Carolina. I think South Carolina could beat Florida after a big loss against Georgia.
It's possible. Just South Carolina just doesn't have the horses. They need the quarterbacks of Florida to play atrociously like they did yesterday.
Yes. And USC takes on Arizona State at 10:30.
USC season just went down the tank when Drake London went out with an injury. Drake London is one of the best wide receivers in the country. Number 15 for USC. Really good wide out. He went out with an ankle injury. He's probably done for the rest of the year.
And the late game, San Diego State takes on Hawaii at 11 o'clock next Saturday. We should be getting out of the dome around 11:30.
Yeah, so maybe we'll check that game out when we
at
get
the bar.
At the bar or something after the concert.
Who
so
knows?
We'll see what happens.
But that concludes this week's slate of games and next week's schedule. We come out with the top 4 teams in the country here
playoff Tuesday night, 7 p.m. The first playoff rankings for this season, so that should be fun. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say Georgia number 1. I'm going to say probably Ohio State 2, Oklahoma 3, Alabama 4. They might throw Cincinnati a bone and put them in there.
I think they'll throw them a bone and give them a chance.
Yeah, so I don't see a scenario where both Oklahoma and Ohio State are out, though, at the end of it. I just don't.
No. So that concludes this week's video. And you guys be good.
Appreciate it.
Take it easy.